Ready?
But no, I got an actual.
Montel.
Ready?
No, I'm supposed to sit at the phone. What am I doing now? President?
Welcome, everyone. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a short invocation?
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God, as we gather this evening, this council asks for strength, courage, and wisdom. We thank you for the privilege that it is to serve this fine community. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. This is we'd say an hour early prior to our regularly scheduled meeting. However, it's 55 minutes early. This is a workshop with our department heads to be able to go over their budgets, to be able to look at different projects and ways to fund them. I know that she randomly drew numbers out of a hat to put the departments on there to go in order, and baptism by fire. Our newest department head gets to go first, and I think that it'll be great. I don't know, you're kind of at a disadvantage because you didn't get to write this proposed budget, but I'm sure you've become familiar with it.
Yes.
Was there anything in the budget that caught you off guard or made you wonder or query about what we could or could not do better?
Not necessarily. I did review the budget, and I think that when they put it together, they kind of looked at last year and year before's budget and tried to come up with a reasonable number on the raises. And looking at, they did a lot of study of surrounding agencies the same size as ours and what their average salaries were. And then we kind of looked down the road on some projects that we want to do. And I have a list of goals and objectives that follows the guidelines that I was given.
Did you provide those for us, his goals and objectives? Or?
I didn't know.
Okay.
I thought that
that's all right.
Yeah.
What are some of your goals?
Well, so in 2023, our number one goal is going to be retention. We figured it cost us $60,000 or $65,000 to train a new officer up front, and we've lost 7 officers in the last few years, which cost us about $420,000 that we can't recoup. We have officers that are currently in other processes, and we had one just turn in their 2 weeks notice here in a couple days ago. So we'd like to work on retention by increase of salary and programs to assist the officers with financial planning. I mean, most of these young officers don't think about it, but I think getting them something they can help them with their investments and plan for their retirement. That's one thing that might retain them better. To get a wellness program together for the mental health, we really don't have something in place. I mean, we have the insurance to cover that, but I'd like to get a better structured mental health program for the officers. And training, training. I think I said when I first was hired that I think officers should train 30% of their career. I mean, you rely on their skills to keep you safe and to keep themselves safe. So I want to bolster our FTO training and come up with some added firearms training. And I want to get them into some crisis intervention training, which is basically deal with people with mental health issues better, so we can better help the public when we deal with that. The body camera program had already been started, and so I'm kind of, and like I said before, I'm kind of midway in the dance. So trying to figure out Motorola coming in to brief me on I haven't even seen the cameras that we're getting yet, but I will on the 14th. They're going to come and give me a brief on that. And then we have to, part of that camera system is we have to get editing software. So if you say, hey, I want to see what this officer did on this traffic stop, and you put in a request, we have to redact some things. If there's juveniles or if they're inside of a home, where somebody's maybe partially clothed or something like that, we have to be able to redact that out. So that software, we're actually trying one for free right now. And so, but they're not cheap. We were kind of behind the ball on our vehicles. So I think Ford sold our vehicles that we had for 2022. And then when we got another quote, they'd gone up almost $7,000 per vehicle. So I reached out to a couple of other dealers and got a little bit cheaper vehicles than what we were buying. So we want to try to get 4 new outfitted vehicles because we have a couple of our vehicles in our fleet that need to be retired. The K-9 program, which you've given us money for, I don't know that I'm going to be able to use it by the end of the year, and I was going to ask that be encumbered into next year's budget because, just being honest with myself, I don't think that there's a lot involved in getting that going. And I've made some steps in that direction. I've talked to some reputable kennels and reputable trainers to get that going, but it's not something that's going to happen overnight, and we're kind of running out of time towards the end of the year. I want to enhance community outreach programs, and I want to sustain our current grants and try to obtain new grants to try to supplement whatever budget I'm given, and seek out new investigative technologies that our investigators can use when we do have serious crimes to help them out. Hire new officers. As of right now, I have 21 applications for a police officer in Mooresville, Indiana, which is pretty good. 4 or 5 of those are for reserves or a little bit older guys who've retired from the Army or whatever, and they want to come on as reserve. But most of them are wanting to be a police officer, and several of them already have the academy, which is going to save us time and money. And like part of that is to enhance the reserve program, and you can discount the reserves; they don't cost us anything, so that's free help. So when I looked at the raises or the proposed increase in salaries, you're only talking about $150 a pay before taxes on most of these for the officers. So I thought that seemed fairly reasonable. When I looked at the salaries of surrounding areas like Bargersville, somebody our size, we're just a little bit behind the curve. But I think if we just could get them up closer to what everybody else is making, we could retain them a little bit better. We do have good insurance, obviously, but so do some other places. So I'm working on the morale. That's a everyday thing. I've been fairly busy my last 2 weeks there. So, but obviously, with the 8% inflation, we're looking to also increase in our fuel consumption and our fuel budget. And then with the increase of personnel, obviously we're going to require more money there. Our cost of electricity, I don't know about you guys, but my electricity went up at home. I'm sure it's going to go up here too. And then because we have an older fleet, it's not super old, but our repairs, tires, everyday things. And then the cost of vehicles to replace our older fleet, and then the equipment to outfit them. And I'm working on actually Captain Forbes is working on a build sheet for what we're asking for. We're going to submit those to the clerk when we get those done. But as a contingency plan, I have a couple contingency ideas of cutting money if I have to here or there, which I'd rather not, but if we have to, and then maybe have some fundraisers for different things. So.
Nothing that alarmed you?
Pardon me?
Nothing that alarmed you or scared you off or
No.
made you slap John and say,
No. No.
not yet.
Well, honestly, it's my first time looking at a budget this size, so it's a learning experience. And then I was able to meet with Paige, and she was very helpful in kind of putting things in perspective, and I understand, fiscal responsibilities of town, and that I have to share with everybody else sometimes. So.
She does a very good job of keeping us in line.
Yeah, she does.
Just don't tell her I said that. Jeff, do you have any questions for?
The only question I might have is we've discussed cell phones, and I don't know, I didn't see it in here. Is this something that we plan on getting on a different plan town-wide and that coming out of town hall, or how are we going to handle that? Because that's obviously something that has to be done or needs to be done, I feel. That would be my only question.
Okay. And that was for each of the employees?
Well, for sure, department heads and the town board, I don't know if you think all of the employees
Well,
are.
so I did kind of an impromptu, I asked around, and most of the officers do not want a town cell phone. They don't want to have to carry two. That's their only thing. They don't want to carry two. But I will tell you this, our new body cams, one of the features that they have, you can detach them and you can take crime scene photographs with that camera. So you don't have to use your phone. Because there is an issue maybe of your phone being subpoenaed if you took, photographs at a crime scene with your personal phone. And I don't think anybody wants to do that. But with the body cams, you could do that, and not have to use your phone. But and then like he said, probably the department heads, John and I probably would be the only ones, if we even needed them, would need them. I don't think the officers have any interest in having them.
Know what you had in mind, Jeff?
Yeah, just something to protect ourselves with all these open records requests. I mean, we've spent thousands of dollars on that, and I think we'd be money ahead, and we can just turn that phone over, they can download it, and all the records will be right there and available. So yeah, I think cell phones are needed.
Well, I think at the end of, before we approve it, then we need to build those back in, if that's what we're going to do. Shane, do you have any questions?
Could you talk about, you mentioned the vehicles, could you talk about your idea you had there on saving money?
So, I guess in the past, we had gotten our vehicles from Ford, a local Ford dealer, and like I said, they went up to almost $48,000 a piece. And then we would have to spend another $1,500 just as in labor to have them outfitted with the lights and the safes and all the stuff for our guns. I was able to piggyback on Fort Wayne Police Department's order and get Tahoes for $42,000, which is an average of $42,000. I'm kind of getting the scraps, what's left, so we didn't get to build them out, but they're nice vehicles. They have the driver safety packages, so if an officer looks down at his MDT and somebody stops in front of him, the vehicle actually stops by itself, which would help us out preventing accidents. I know a lot of crashes are caused by officers looking at their computers, and they have the backup cams, which I think most departments would tell you that the highest number of departmental accidents are from backing, especially in SUVs. So,
Can you put those in the capital plan page? All of these capital that the department heads are mentioning today.
The department heads should have put those capital items in their own budgets, but I do
Okay.
see that the police did put K-9 expenses in there, and that's also body cameras,
Yep.
so those are both in there for the
And our
police.
vehicles were in last year's plan.
Yes.
So they'll be carried forward.
Anything else, Shane?
No, thank you, sorry. Yep.
Greg?
I don't think I have any questions.
Dustin?
No, I will say that I do like the Tahoe idea. I know that they retain value much more than the current ones.
so what I learned from Chevrolet is the Tahoes actually come with a seat in the middle, and so when you have them wired, the person whoever wires them will take the middle seat out, and we keep those. And then when we go to resell them, we put the middle seat back in, and they say it adds $4,000 or $5,000 onto the selling price.
And I like the safety aspects of the Tahoe. I've seen firsthand after the fact accidents involving officers, and they walked away.
Yes.
Everybody walked away.
Yes.
It's just fine.
The sheriff of Morgan County drives one, so I figured they have to be good.
I won't say anything to Rich. No further, Mr. President.
When you talk to Fort Wayne, do they buy theirs on a lease, or do they buy them outright, or do you know?
So they don't, I asked him if they offered financing, and they said they do, but they don't. I mean, it takes too long. I talked to the clerk about maybe the thing is we're getting vehicles that won't be built till April of next year, June of next year. That will give us time to maybe shop around to see if we can get a good rate or a good lease program to purchase those vehicles. And then, I mean, at the end of the day, we usually buy them anyway, and especially as well as they're taken care of. Putnam County has already called me wanting to buy some of our vehicles because we take good care of them. So that would be an added income, and I don't know how that works, being the new kid on the block, but, that money, we could actually go through Ford to sell them to them, or we could sell them to them outright, and I don't know what the rules are about that, so that's something I'd have to confer with somebody about.
I know in the past we had gotten to the point that we were selling them on the fourth year and we were doing extremely well. But I think last year or last set of vehicles we got, dealerships dropped it down to nothing. That's why we kept what we did.
Well, because they're in high demand. I mean, they had the chip problem, and cars just weren't being sold. I mean, when you buy a Chevrolet dealership up here, it was bare. So vehicles were at a premium, so they could sell them for. I mean, there was no negotiating when you went to buy one. You bought them for what the sticker said.
And if they went, is it through a qualified bidding or qualified
Yes,
pricing?
it's actually a state bid, but we're piggybacking on a city bid. It's Fort Wayne City Police. And so I asked them, I told them we probably want to see the legal paperwork on that so it could be reviewed. But I had to put my name on those or they're going to be sold. So I went and put my name on them. And I said we have till April. 3 of them are coming in April and one's coming in June.
Four of them? You
Yes.
committed to four of them?
Yes.
President, if I may, that's the same place where I bought the Chevy pickup truck for the fire department.
They sell vehicles to fire departments. Do you still want to buy yours there?
Well, if they sell them to second responders, the first responders will be glad.
Wow. Thank you.
He's a little mad because I passed the test twice.
Oh, okay. If there's no further questions, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Have any questions? I'm sure you may get a phone call individually from us. And
Absolutely.
Go from there.
Okay.
Thank you very much. That bad? Wasn't that bad?
No, that's easy.
Fire department, you are up.
So, as you guys looked at my proposed budget for 2023, I'll have to kind of back up just a little bit. Back in the first of this year, I went off to a chief executive training class that basically educates the new chiefs coming in to the state to talk about budgets, grants, other stuff. And a lot of the stuff, how to retain people, and a lot of stuff is the same all over the state. One of the things that I did hear also from other chiefs up there was basically talk to our younger individuals, see what they want. So I did that, and if you look, over the last 2 years, this council has been very, very generous to us as the fire and the police for a $7,000 raise. My guys are now younger generation. They're looking at what's benefiting them in their pocket. If on the sheet that I gave you to the clerk of the treasurer's office, I did my proposal and it says the salaries for you guys. With that, I broke it down. Right now, we are paying 6% out of every paycheck out of our, which is basically for 26 times a year is $24 a year. With that, this also, as Chief Buckner said earlier, that this council in this town does have very good insurance. But also to retain those individuals, the way to retain that younger generation is basically also giving them back something that's going to pick up into their pockets. To basically, we are kind of getting a raise to a degree, but it's coming out of our paycheck. So if we do this, they're not asking for a raise. They're just basically saying, hey, will the town pick up a percentage of our pension to give it back to us so we can take care of our families on the front line and not come out of our pockets. Because if we get, let's say it's a $2,000 raise, that's also going to increase our pension base that we have to pay out of our pocket. And like I said, I broke it down into percentages for each category of what we're going to be paying and what the town would be and end up paying. We would like the 6%, which right now the town's paying a 17.5% rate, and we are paying the other 6%. I know other agencies are doing this. IMPD's doing it. I think IFD's doing it also. Whitestown's doing it. Pittsburgh is actually paying 6%. Bargersville's paying 3%. Plainfield Fire Territory is paying 3%. I'm not sure what Martinsville hasn't answered me on that one. But other agencies are doing that to help retain some of their younger generation, to keep them there, to keep them longer. Any questions on the pension stuff? Now, again, if we don't go with a pension, if the town decides not to go with a pension, then we're asking for a 4% raise across the board for each line item for each individual, which would be basically about a $2,100 raise for salaries. Again, like I said, that's going to kind of fluctuate back and forth between council and stuff, deciding which avenue we want to go with. And then go on with that. And I think even Paige has got that kind of calculated in when I sent my budget off to you guys as the clerk's office. Depending on what you guys at council decide to do with the pension stuff. If you look at line 113, basically that is the firefighters. We've had to increase that. Back in 2013, Chief Metzger had put in for a SAFER grant to add additional firefighters into our staffing. Hindsight being 2020, I did not realize I was going off of what the FEMA representative had told me, that grant would stop on 2022 and I'd have to reapply for it. Not knowing that Chief Metzger always applied for it a year prior, and then when the funding ran out, there was money already there. So basically what we've had to do is basically take some money out of our part-time staff and move that over to retain the 3 full-time firefighters that were on that grant in order to not lay anybody off. With doing that, we had to move $285,000 into line 13 from line 114.
So have you reapplied for the grant now? or-
Reapplied for the grant. The best of my knowledge from looking at previous applicants, and even when Chief Metzger did it, they start getting awarded anywhere between August to October. So right now I did get an email that said make sure our SAM's number is up to date and current for the town. And I have done that. I know it's up to date, so we're just kind of waiting to see if anything comes out of that.
So what happens if you get awarded that? Is it for 2024 or is it for 2023?
That will be basically for 2024.
Okay.
In line 114, I asked to basically put back 1.3% back into that budget for our part-time staffing, so we can get right now, because we're operating with basically a limited number of part-time staff. So if somebody calls off, we're not filling that full-time guy. If we got part-time already working. So I've asked to basically to try to keep that number right there, to make sure everybody keeps working and not laying anybody off. We had to basically put a number on some guys to basically say can't work any more than this number here, to make sure that our staffing is adequate. Line 390, I'm asking for basically an additional $3,500 in that. That's our training budget. Again, with the younger generation, we have trainings that we have to maintain. And a lot of this younger generation, they're starting out their career like I did 22 years ago, and I took a lot of classes. I have a class that actually I'm going to have my department head report. I'll go ahead and just kind of say it now, that 2 other departments, we've went in partnership to retain a company to come in and teach us. Back in 2013, I took this class along with a lot of the older generation for auto machinery technician class for our department. And with the help of the other 2 departments, we were able to get this company to come in and basically teach us. We were fortunate back in 2013 because the gentleman that taught us actually worked for us part-time. So he taught it for us for free underneath Chief Metzger. Now, unfortunately, with him owning his own business and doing it for all over the United States, charging, and like I said, with the other company, or the other 2 departments, I was able to get this company to come in and teach this our younger generation. $391 is our dues and subscriptions. Over the last couple of years, I've noticed that we have several programs, and I've basically tried to streamline it down to where we only have a couple now. And then also, I've noticed over the last year, and then kind of getting into this year a little bit, that we were a little bit shy on some things from last year to this year on our dues and subscriptions. So I've asked to basically increase that to about $6,000. This is going to help us basically keep our subscriptions for our trainings, for our online trainings that we need to take because of COVID and stuff like that every now and then. This is also going to give us the programs that we need, because right now, the way that I'm having to go back and look at stuff for maintenance records is paperwork, or, looking through files and saying, okay, we paid this, or just basically asking some of the older generation that's kind of retired now to say, hey, did we do this back a couple years ago, or when did we do this, or coming over to town hall and then having them try to look everything up when we possibly have paid something. So basically, with that being said, one of the things that I'm basically kind of streamlining this for is to basically get that program, and it's going to help basically where my guys or my officers can say, hey, yes, we've paid for this is what's going on, they can tag it, and now we have records of everything that's basically within the 21st century now, keeping everything up to date. It's all electronically, it's all recorded now, instead of me trying to go back through files and files of paperwork. The line item for the stipend pay, or for the medic stipend pay, I do have 2 gentlemen that are actually currently going through paramedic program, and I'm going to apologize that I did not receive Paige's information that our capital improvements needed to be into our budget, so I kind of left everything into our capital improvements from back in December when we did everything. I have 2, like I said, I have 2 currently employees right now that are going through paramedic school. I've increased that. We had 1 paramedic that we hired a while back that was getting the $1,500, but he actually let his paramedic license kind of lapse, so he's not getting that $1,500, but he does have until the end of this year to get an idea to the state if he wants to continue or not and challenge it. So that's the reason why that $3,000 is there, because it's going to be an additional for our 2 new employees that are going through paramedic school on their own, to basically give them a little bit of an increase of pay of saying, hey, thanks for your service, and give them a little bit of extra money in their pocket because they are going through school on their own and doing it out of their own pocket. And then the capital improvement outlay, as I explained to several different council members, back in 2013, Chief Metzger had basically bought these tools from Amatro or from Indy IRS. We're not 100% sure who. and they were already 3 to 5 years old when we bought those from that company. So we're looking at our extrication tools at roughly around 15 years old possibility. We don't know for sure. That's the best guess estimate. Right now, we do have our extrication tools are working. I know we did have a pump go down earlier this year. I had to spend a few $1,000s in getting it basically fixed. I was asked, we can get those pumps worked on the generator side, which is a Honda generator. The hydraulic side, those are patented, and they're only patented by Promatro. I was given the information to take it to a hydraulic mechanic. Once we did that, he was able to basically take one pump, take the parts off of the one pump, and get the other pump running. We had two pumps identical, which got us back up and running. Now, our sales rep did loan us a pump, so it kept us in service until we got our pump back up and running from the other company. With the inflation, I've talked to with the technology nowadays, with everything going on, I talked to several different manufacturers. It's like anything else, a 10-year rotation. We need to plan on doing something every 10 years, whether it's a new car, new fire truck, new engine, new ladder, extrication tools, the AED, stuff like that. Everything, technology is all new. Right now, I've gotten prices for two different manufacturers that are comparable, which we're looking at. My proposal is basically to buy one set now, and then turn right around, and in 5 years, the one set that we still have is still operating very well. They still make the parts for that pump. Our tools are still good, and basically in another 5 years, turn around and buy another set, and then basically get rid of that set, and then we'll have two new sets within 5 years of each other to have the technology of the metal and stuff like that. And again, like Chief Buckner said, with staff cars, I'm trying to get things on rotations. We have 3 vehicles that are 2014s. The trade-in values for those vehicles are not the greatest in the world anymore. Again, Chief Buckner said earlier, I've reached out to Fletcher, I've reached out to Kelly from Fort Wayne, and then even Ford, and everything is right there within it. We're looking at months before we can even order anything. The Tahoes I was surprised that the Tahoes were coming in comparably different, or a little bit cheaper than the Durangos and the Ford from Mandy Moore Ford. I'm proposing we don't put the miles on like the police, so I'm proposing that we do like either a 4-year or a 5-year rotation for every car. I have 3 chiefs, and then to basically do one each year, and then on the fourth year, you'd have an off year, and then start it back up on the 5th year.
Yeah.
I just wanted the chief to know that we did, from the capital improvement plan, have a proposed budget in the LIT Public Safety Fund for remodel of department headquarters of $100,000, air packs, masks, and bottles for $300,000, and a staff vehicle for $35,000. So there's a proposed budget there. I know you had mentioned some other things, but right now, that was just based on our capital plan, which can obviously be changed.
I thought the air packs were not until next year. Is that
2023 is what we had in the capital plan, but if you want to push that to 2024, that's...
Well, 2023, our air packs will be out. Now, again, I'm going to be putting in for a AFG grant, but as everybody knows, the grants are a 50-50 shot. Sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't. And I know next year our packs will be out of hydro date and out of technology and out of warranty. So it's just a matter of what the council wishes to do. Again, I will put in for the grant, but it doesn't open up until February, March of next year. We won't know anything until October. They're just now awarding earlier on the AFG grants from this year. And again, yes, you're right, Paige. I'm sorry that I did. That was the next thing on the list was the firehouse and headquarters for remodeling. Other than that, I have nothing else.
Where's your assistant chief pay going, and what's your plans there?
So right now, the assistant chief's plans are basically, we were planning on with talking with the town clerk and the deputy clerk, we're basically going to be using that to help offset some of that grant that we did lose. So we will be using it
For retaining that employee?
at the end of this year. And we left it, in my understanding, you correct me if I'm wrong, we left it alone for right now until we got to that end of the year to where they have to start transferring the monies around in order to basically make sure that everything, the lines are taken care of and cleared out. But with what going on, I am planning on filling that position come first of the year.
Before we get the grant?
Sorry.
Before we get the grant?
I'm hoping to hear something by next month.
Okay.
But my plans, because it's getting overwhelming for my division chief and myself, and I was just told earlier this couple of months ago that I have a couple of part-time staff that does work in my office, and they've retired, and Les has been a very good help and giving me some knowledge and stuff because he was sitting in my spot at one point in time, and he's ready to hang it up completely to a degree. So.
Any questions? Jane? Greg?
So you're wanting to move your headquarters from here out to, is that what I understand?
No, my headquarters will still stay where it's at. It's just basically, I know there's some things out there that need to be replaced. I was hoping to maybe take a little bit of that $100,000 that we proposed. I did reach out to some contractors. I've not gotten any quotes to basically do anything over there yet. But hopefully we can try to maybe coordinate a little bit and get, I know carpet out there, I mean, that's a 13-year-old building. Carpet's kind of wearing out. I know the HVAC is a little bit, I know they're looking at that a little bit. Other than that, just kind of remodeling here and there, just not expensive stuff, but it's just trying to maintain everything.
Greg, any other questions? Greg, did you have any other questions? Dustin? No. Thank you very much. Next is our town court.
Near as complicated as theirs. There's really only 3 places on there that I'd like to make a point or ask a question. Excuse me. Under the longevity, currently it's at 1,500. We're going to need to increase it by 1,000 because the gal that was not receiving longevity will be receiving it next year. So I would like to add another $1,000 in there to get them both covered on that longevity. Money. I have been trying for a very long time kind of crunched the difference between one of my staff and the other one. It was like $7,000 or something like that. And I don't think it should be that much of a difference. I would like to bring the clerk's salary up more. I don't want to start a cat fight over there by giving one girl 1,000 and the other one 2,000. I wouldn't. That wouldn't be fun. So if you guys could just like maybe take $500 out of mine and add that to the clerks. I'm just trying to get them closer in salary because they're really doing. Sandy does do some things that Patty doesn't, but they're doing very, very similar things, and I don't think there should be that much of a gap. So that's the other thing about money. And then to make up for the 1,000, I'm asking you to add the longevity. On 390, there's 1,000 for training and seminars, and that was put in there when I was going back to Ivy Tech, study Spanish. I don't know if I'll be able to fit that in my schedule next year or not. I'm at the point where I can pretty much communicate with everybody that walks into my courtroom. Very rare that they stick their heels in, saying that they don't speak any English, because as we all know, most of them speak more English than they admit to. It is so rare. I don't think I've ever had to call a Spanish interpreter. I really don't know. I will admit that sometimes there have been people there in the room, that'll say, I'll help out. And I know enough Spanish that I can tell if they're really asking them, the question. So I would like to further. I minored in Spanish, but that's been a very, very long time ago when I was in college the first time. So if you want to take the 1,000 out of that, to replace the 1,000 that I'd want to add to longevity, that would be fine. I'll try and fit another semester of Spanish in, but that's what that was about. And really, I don't think you guys are going to do it, but I would really rather you take some of my raise and give it to me.
Jeff, any questions?
I have none.
Shane?
No.
Greg? ¿Cómo está? Bueno. Next is, oh boy, Town Hall.
Town hall, like the judge said, mine's not as complex as the fire department, MVH, and the police, but originally, during the whole process, I was very mindful to continue the conservative approach with projecting the expenditures. And in doing that, after we got the numbers, the updated summary from Page on 814, we went back through the budget again, looked at the most recent appropriation report, and we found some ways that we can reduce our budget by $30,000 and what was it, $31,605. So, and I'll just kind of go over a few of those line items with you. The longevity, we left at $2,000, which saved us the $500 that we originally had applied for that. And computer services, we left that at computer supplies, left that at $7,000 from the 2022. Official records, we were able to lower that from $2,900 to $2,500. And then we're going to go to line item 312, where we have legal services. In the past, we had legal services and professional services / consultant all in the same bucket. And we decided that it's time to separate those two out so we can track, and I just think it's best practice to separate those two. So you're going to see a new line item in the budget for consultant services, which is 314. We added $40,000 to the budget for consultants and professional services. Legal, we increase that to $120,000, bring it up by $10,000. And then, of course, postage, we're constantly getting increases, but once we did look at the appropriation reports for August, we felt we could leave the postage at $61.20. And then with the boards and clerical, with BZA and planning now being out of non-reverting building, we could lower that by $500. So that was a $500 savings. So basically, we took our budget from $731,799 down to $700,194. And Paige, we can get those updates to you.
That's fine.
So you can plug those in.
So the sheet we have doesn't include those updates, correct?
No.
Okay, all right, because when I'm
Yeah.
reading along, I'm like,
No.
this isn't matching. Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna get you an update once
Okay.
we decide on everything.
Thanks.
And also, just a reminder that line item 393, the budget also includes a $10,000 to continue the town's partnership with the senior citizens. We give a donation every year.
Yeah.
So I think that's a plus, just bring to people's attention that we donate $10,000 to the senior citizens. And also, with 2023 being an election year, we had to add $10,000 for the election, because that would be the cost to have the election in 2023. Mine was simple.
Jeff, questions?
No, I have none.
Thank you.
None. Next is our Department of Public Works.
Okay, so, my proposed budget is significantly higher this year due to the fact that we're doing the capital outlay. That is reflected by pickup trucks, well, one pickup truck and a plow truck. Asking for 70,000 for Ford F-550 and a dump truck. Did speak with the plow truck manufacturer. We can't even place the order until the third quarter of 2023, so we won't be able to do that this year. So as far as personnel, I did put in for a $1,500 raise for everyone. Morale is still pretty high. Some of the guys aren't getting other job offers, and they're pretty happy where they're at, so they're sticking around. We have had a little bit of turnover this year, which is not normal for my department, but other increases up and down the budget are pretty much reflect today's inflation. Things like Social Security, that reflects that we do have an additional employee this year that was brought on last year. So that's it in a nutshell.
And his is the same page. The snowplow and trucks are in the capital plan already.
Hang on just a second, so I can find it. I believe that is budgeted out of local road and street. We have, yes, $240,000 of capital budgeted out of local road and street.
So when all is said and done, you'll update the plan, and then we'll start in on implementing the plan.
Yes, I mean, most of this is already in the plan, so yes, we can update as necessary, but
And bump it over, or
yeah. Yep. Yep.
eliminate things we've already done, things like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
You adding two, Dave, or are you just replacing that truck? That won't be a backup, the old won't be a backup, or,
Talking about the 550,
yeah,
we'd be adding to, we have a couple of 15, 20-year-old trucks that we might hire out, but trucks are the heartbeat of my department. Can't figure out where the the brains are, but we need trucks.
Yeah,
I'm not.
Jane? Nope. Greg? Justin? Paige, I do have a question on you, on this here. If we look at his, if we look at your overview of the entire budgets, we are overspending the LRNS by $140,000, $235,000. The cash ending balance at the end of 2023 still shows us, excuse me, still shows us at 400,000. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, and then help me out here on the MVH restricted. We bumped that to 300,000, and that is the money that we're expecting to use on our community crossings matching grant should we receive the full $1 million.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
So neither one of those are technically spent. We're just allowing for them if Dave can find a dump truck next year. But you're saying we can't even order it?
Right, so they have one slot to build a truck, the third quarter of 2023.
Okay.
And as soon as he could get us on the list, give me a price.
Maybe it'll be for free.
Maybe. I'm thinking I want a Tahoe.
There's your fundraiser right there. Next will be Parks Department.
All right, we have about a 7% increase, the majority of which is in personnel, so I'll go a little bit through that. Most of our items are shifting money from line item to line item, more so than asking for additional. So we're trying to take it out of the correct line item of where it is spent and where it has been done in the past. We kind of go, oh, there's money in this line, let's take it out of there. So a lot of it is corrections on how money is actually spent. We function on a very slim budget, and we're thankful to do most repairs and maintenance in-house, which is a significant savings. However, we're finding that we're falling behind in both preventative maintenance and future development. So that will be one of our focuses in 2023. We did not put, well, it's in the budget, but not the parks budget, if that makes sense, as far as the capital improvement plan. So there's a few big items. Actually, next meeting I'll be coming to request money. So in there already is Old Town Park restrooms. We're looking at future development. We're hoping to have a work session with the park board in November to determine future development of the park, adding amenities, but none of that is included in our actual budget. There are some under food and beverage that we had kind of anticipated, adding a shelter house, a playground, pickleball courts, but the development and what actually goes in is still yet to be determined. Our most significant increase is in the seasonal part-time personnel line, which is actually called something else. I think it's just personnel. So it's about an $86,000 increase. The past few years, we've been able to manage small hourly increases. I think we were still at minimum wage the year before COVID. Within our budget, we've been able to manage small increases, but we've had to reduce the number of services offered because of the staff we've been able to get prior to the staffing shortage. So we've been able to creep up a little bit, but we really, we'd like to get back to offering all the services we did before and more. For example, we cut the number of swim lessons that we offered because we just didn't have the staff back in 2021.
So the majority of it is not really adding any additional part-time seasonal people. It's doing the same hours that we currently offer, with hoping to get back to where we were prior to COVID. As I said, there's not a lot of other specific changes, more so of allocating money to the proper line item. We do expect a decrease in capital outlays. There's $35,000 put in the 2022 budget for a vehicle, which I'm working with Dave to see if we can get something done before the end of the year. So that will be taken care of, but we're obviously not going to buy another vehicle next year. So that capital outlay that's in the 2022 budget would not be in the 2023 budget. So that's why there's a zero there. As far as the full-time salaries, we were told to put $1,500 for the increase. We do have $2,000 on here because each of our full-time line items is underfunded by $500. So whatever the raises may be, our budget would need to be $500 more per line item for each full-time person to make it what we actually pay them. That's been that way for a few years, so we're just trying to correct that. We do also anticipate a small decrease in longevity and overtime. We have a fairly new staff, so obviously that's the longevity. When you lose someone of 35 years, there's a few dollars there. But with having new staff, many of them have not accumulated vacation time, and they're opting to take compensatory time instead of overtime at this point. We'll reevaluate next year, and we'll probably have to adjust that a little bit, but I don't foresee that being an issue. That's why we decreased overtime a little bit as well. Yep. Any questions?
I have a question that's sort of not budget related, but it is. The barn back by the restrooms in the back of the park.
The one that was supposed to be fixed about 2 months ago, but we don't have the staffing to get, it's on there. It's on their project
So
list.
that's something that was it donated or something?
It was on the property of one of the two properties off of County Line that we purchased in 2019. So this year we had it moved, and then after we had it moved, our staff told us that there was a hole in the roof, so they put the tarp up. Then the tarp tore, and we asked them to replace the tarp, which has not happened. So now it has leaked and everything. So that is on the priority list of 2 weeks ago. So they're supposed to be fixing that.
Okay.
But that is ours.
Jeff, question?
I have none.
Shane?
No.
Greg? Agent, looking at the cash flow summaries on this for the 2023, for public safety is below it. It's extremely underfunded. Looking to see if we had a budget for that.
Below it, public safety?
Yes, was that something where we added back in some of the capital improvement projects?
I can tell you what's in there. So currently there's 77 pension, which is 378,000. Dispatcher air cards, 22,000. Health insurance for police and fire, 300,000. Remodel fire department headquarters, 100,000. Staff vehicles for fire department, 35,000. And air packs, masks, and bottles for 300,000 for the fire department. So that's a total of 1,135,000. These, there's capital that is non-recurring of 435,000, so this technically makes this a balanced budget. I know you're spending down cash reserves, but the recurring costs are within the revenue that's coming in.
So it is sustainable.
It's sustainable as long as you don't spend $435,000 of capital every single year. Yeah.
Okay, when we go back and we look at the police cars that we had budgeted, can you give me a synopsis of where we thought we were going to pay for those?
Yeah, so there's two places you can pay for the police cars, and I don't think that decision's been made, but one, we have sort of, I guess, a placeholder in Cume Capital Development. There's just other capital outlays of $200,000. Police cars, we were thinking it was gonna be about $100,000 to lease those. Another place you can pay for it, but it is not currently budgeted, is in EDIT, Economic Development Income Tax Fund. You do have about $100,000 you could budget and still have a balanced budget for the police cars. So that would be a council decision as to where you want. We did, in the capital plan, had initially shown those under the Economic Development Income Tax Fund, but it could be under either CCD or EDIT. And that $100,000 for the police cars is a rolling lease, so every 3 years you would get an additional 3 police cars, and it would just be a lease that would continue.
In the past, we've been fortunate enough when the cars were going extremely well as far as the trade-in or resale value. What we do is we pay 2 lease payments, and then the resale would usually pay that third payment. And then we can start in sometimes a little quicker on getting a new lease started on some more cars. So, okay, so we can go back to the CCD on that and still have the Lowit just as one-time purchases.
Yes.
Be any problem on the park operating where we're overspending it?
Yes, because these are all recurring costs, and this budget is not sustainable in the long term unless the council wishes to allocate more property tax revenue over to the Parks Fund, or you can increase your fees or generate some revenue for the Park Fund.
All food for thought. Are there any thoughts that you have on this?
I think your general fund looks great now that I've made the changes that were requested this evening. So you are better than balanced by $26,000. So that looks good, and you would have an ending cash reserve at the end of 2023 of about 77%.
If we were to move just say move the $26,000 worth of levy over to the park, how much would that give them? Because doesn't that move levy from Brown Township also?
It would just move your overall maximum levy over. Yes, Brown Township would be paying for that, obviously, but it would help, let me see, it would bring the budget closer in balance. It would have an imbalance of about $90,000 if you did that for the Parks Fund.
Okay. The MVH at 13,000 in the red is still sustainable because we're at 52,000.
Correct.
Okay.
That is sustainable.
Are there any questions for Paige?
None.
Dane?
At the bottom, that talks about the cash reserve requirement of major operating funds. It says 15%. It's been stated in this meeting 25%. Which is it? Which is better? 25?
15% is the absolute floor. We would not want you to drop below that. 20 to 25% is where we would want you to be. 15% is the floor.
Those-
Don't go below.
So 25 isn't the minimum, it's 15 that's the
Yeah,
minimum.
15% is the absolute minimum. That really is only 2.5 months of cash reserve. So
Okay.
it's the absolute. In fact, when bond rating agencies look at various municipalities, if you were to issue bonds, they're going to look to see if you're at 15% or below. If you're below, that kind of looks like you have some issues with financial related items.
So this is our first, really, to me, it's our first real budget cycle with the capital improvement plan because of when we developed it last year. So walk me through the process of that. You're going to sit down with department heads again, or take the information you gleaned from tonight and kind of clean that plan up?
If that's what you would like for us to do, that is another scope of service. We're happy to do that for you. Right now, there's only a couple things that are in variance to this plan. One of them is making a decision about the police cars, but this plan is pretty much up to date unless department heads say, hey, we need to add things. I think it would be more economical to the town if the department heads look at this plan and tell me if they want changes.
Okay.
And then we can update this pretty quickly and reissue it, at the end of the budget cycle.
Does the council re-adopt it as a part of the budget process, or?
You absolutely can.
Okay.
But this is a really good document to have because it was easy for us to sit down and say, okay, these are the needs of the departments. Where can we fit them into the budget? So it was helpful.
So if I may, I know in the fire department, you've got 34,000 in the capital improvement, but as we already know it from Chief Buckner and myself, we can't even find vehicles, so that's not gonna be in there this year.
Right. So that's just communicate that to us.
Right.
But at some point, we need to order the vehicles so that we can get them, because if we wait another 6 months, it'll be another 6 months,
The windows aren't open though, like we're trying to do ours, they said, don't even talk to me till October.
Yeah.
Shane, any other questions?
No, thank you, Paige.
Paige, thank you. Department heads, thank you very much. Thank you for your diligence. What makes this town a great town is the department heads and the departments that serve it. We appreciate that.
When you were talking about salaries, there's been some conversation that our crossing guards have not had a raise for a long, long time. So, we looked at that and we were wanting to increase that line item from 21,000 to 23,000, and that would be bringing them up from $11.26 per hour to $12 an hour.
That's part of what you described earlier as your...
Yeah, but I didn't mention that amount, because I really didn't get into the salaries.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. I think that's important.
Are we going to talk about salaries tonight?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Any other comments or questions on the budgets?
Well, I'd just say I think the department heads did a great job for the first time that this has been done. It was informative for me as a council member. I hope it was informative for the audience too. But I thought you did a fine job.
I did have a question, if I can. So, one thing I neglected to mention is on our if you look at the part-time dispatchers, pay on there, they're currently, it shows them at $12 an hour, but I think they make 15. And we were gonna bump them up to 19 or 18 an hour to be competitive with the sheriff's department, but we were asking for a change in our overall line for that. So is that done here, or is that done at a different time?
That'll be done during a salary ordinance.
Okay, all right.
But we do need to make sure you get something out either to all of us in an email and to Diane, that we want to keep that on the radar.
Yeah, I put it in the budget, but I didn't know where it was appropriate to be.
Okay. Anything else? Any other questions?
It's not going to increase that line item, or is it going to?
I'm not going to
Just
increase
the hourly wage.
Just with that hourly rate to be competitive with the sheriff's office.
And drive Tahoes like them.
Drive time.
Oh, boy. I have to call Rich.
There's one other thing that we weren't made aware of until after all this was done, and that's that, the 77 pension plan, the town's percentage is gonna go from 17.5 to 18 next year. So these are based on 17.5, so there's gonna have to be a little bit of an adjustment there in public safety.
Always a moving target. Always a moving target. Okay, well, department heads, if you want to stay, you're welcome to, or you'll have your department head reports if you want to stay there, that's fine. It's up to you. We're going to move on with the rest of the meeting. Gentlemen have had a chance to read the minutes from our previous meeting. I need a motion to either amend or accept the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Jeff Dustin, 5-0.
That was, correction, I believe that was Greg, I did not.
Oh, I
say
thought that was you, I'm sorry. Correction, Jeff Gregg. 5-0. To get that one right. One and 3 East Main Street demolition. David? Been a fun 3 weeks, hasn't it?
Pardon?
Been a fun 3 weeks, hasn't it?
No, yeah, I think we're driving Ashley bonkers with all of our questions, but we do have a contract with Gentry Demolition. Is for $175,000. There is one, there's always another hiccup, it seems like, on this project. It seems like we spec'd a provision in our insurance that demolition crews don't carry. However, if we are insistent that they buy this policy, it's going to raise that $5,000 to $7,000. He'll have a firm number for us tomorrow once he knows if we are going to stay with that request or not. We do have a contract. Move equipment in tomorrow. A couple of weeks.
And so the issue on the insurance provision, it's a professional liability provision. You know, I believe it was included with Ray's in their policies. And so, you know, we did have a discussion with the contractor today. They indicated that they're going to get us a certificate tomorrow. So we would like an opportunity to review it to make sure that it does comply with what we are looking for. So there are a couple different options here. One of those options is to move forward and approve it pending review of the insurance policy that's provided tomorrow. If it's all in line, then you've already approved what's in that contract. We'll just reach out, get a signature, and tell them, give them the notice to proceed. The other option is waiting until we get it and do it. That's going to delay everything else. I mean, if it's got the right language in that policy and we're good to go, then there shouldn't be anything stopping us moving forward and their mobilization.
But we approve it pending, we don't approve price, we approve pending properly written.
Right. Pending proper insurance pursuant to the specs.
What he's saying though is, we don't have a firm price based on.
And that's not what they portrayed to us. They just indicated that they were going to be providing us with the proper insurance documents. And so, if the town wants to consider, I guess there's a couple different things. If you want to consider an addition of 5, my problem with that is that the specs included the language in there. And that was their response to the specs. And as a response to the specs, it was incumbent upon them to make sure that they had everything lined out in their response. If it's not lined out in that response, then it is not responsive. So the way I look at it, the position I would normally take is you've placed in a bid that you say is compliant with the specs that we put out. We caught this little error. That's not on us, that is on you. But I'll take direction from the council as to how you would like to proceed.
So they submitted a bid for $175,000, is that correct? Correct. And before we could accept it, they said, oh, it may be a little bit more. Is that right?
That's correct.
And I think what it was is we started looking through all the documents and the insurance policies, and there was one that was just not that professional coverage. Okay.
But it is in raise. We had two bids.
Two bids.
The one that we're discussing at 175 is not the lowest bid, but it's the quickest. They can mobilize quicker. And we gave Dave the authorization. We felt like this is public health, safety, and welfare, that we wanted to move forward, and the accepting of a higher bid is put back on how quickly can we get it done. There are some very finite circumstances that we can accept a higher bid. In this case here, says
Yes.
public safety, we can do that.
We were in agreement with, because I think that the delay on the start time was 3 months with the other.
1 month.
That,
1 month.
or 1 month. So you're talking about a 4-week delay in the beginning of that process.
My understanding is what we voted on before gives Dave the authority to sign the contract pending attorney review of the insurance and so forth. Is there a vote that needs to be taken tonight?
Do we want to put a number on?
I mean, the big question is, if it comes back with a different number, saying, okay, here's the policy that was supposed to be in there, now it's $5,000 more, is the council willing to proceed?
Who's requiring this extra policy? Is it the town or is it?
We are. We put it in the specs, and it's a policy that I am not comfortable saying is not going to be in there.
What is that?
Well, why wasn't it in there the first time, or something changed, or did I miss something?
No, it was in there. They did not include it, and their position is that they don't normally include that.
From the first company that we terminated the contract with?
Well, they didn't have they didn't have a lot of the insurance that we would be comfortable for.
But we reviewed all their contracts and we're comfortable with them proceeding, correct, or no?
The insurance, they said that they had all the insurance in place, and then once they got out here, they said, oh, well, we don't have, it's more than one issuance of it. They said that it had changed, and the policy binder that they had provided us was no longer going to be the insurance policy.
Okay.
Here, we put in the specs this insurance policy. The responses were to include all of that and computation of all of that.
Okay.
This time I'd like it in writing from your office to Dave saying, we've read this and approved it.
Yeah, and Dave has been in constant contact with Ashley.
Yeah, I know. Are you gonna look at it though yourself?
Yeah, so we've been working in conjunction with
Okay.
it. Sometimes it's easier, because I've been on the road a lot, to have one point of contact in it, and so.
I'm just confused as to what we need to vote on because we've already voted to allow him to proceed.
On the response, the
Yeah.
right insurance policies, but they say that it is an increase in the contract price as a council.
We gave him the authority to approve it because we thought it was going to be done before we met again.
Right.
Thought we were going to have a hole in the ground before we met again, and here we are. So I guess what we're doing is we're relieving some of the burden from him to say, do we want to proceed with this if it is above what he told you today of $175,000? Are we good in saying, yes, let's do it at $175,000 given the insurance? Because the buck we're good with the $175,000 given a correct insurance, or do we say, well, we're going to wait and see how much they have, and then have him make the decision? Because he's not comfortable with this $175,000 estimate today. Is that the way you're interpreting it? Because Jewel got something different.
From my understanding, he turned in a bid of 175. He has to buy a little bit more insurance, and it could be $5,000 to $7,000. He doesn't want to eat that cost. If he has to buy that insurance policy, it's going to increase his bid. He can start tomorrow, raise trash, waste management.
Is there a new contact since Rays have sold, since we started this process?
I think what you probably need to consider is that the demolition side of it did not sell.
Just the trash side. It would still be done by Rays. So, what kind of extra policy did he not have?
Essentially, if he knocks down the wrong building or does damage to another building, that the insurance policy takes care of it.
That was the original
Big issue.
problem, that increased his bid so much.
It's a pretty big issue.
But is that, he didn't have enough coverage for that, or?
We did not see a binder that covered it.
I know that he had to increase his price by like 30,000 to cover that insurance, but that didn't cover enough of it, or?
Basically, the attorneys didn't review the last policy, correct?
Which policy?
Of the previous contractor.
We reviewed the policy there. What we were told is we got contacted to say that an additional policy would have to be good because that other policy, his insurance company was telling him that that other policy was not valid for a public entity, which I've never dealt with that before.
I don't know why that would be the case, but I saw the policy. The town did receive the policy. How are you going to review this policy? Just the paper, or do you call the agent or carrier itself?
It's a policy, a binder that's going to, a certificate essentially, that says that they will be insured by this,
Yeah.
like a bond type document. And I mean, at the end of the day, if somebody wants to try and falsify that, then they're committing fraud, which opens up a whole huge other thing.
Jeff, what do you want to do?
What was Ray's bid?
152.
But they're a month out. We've got to get downtown open. I know that. The businesses are suffering. We've got to do something. That building has to come down. But they're a month out. Is there a new contact since Ray's have sold? Since we started the bid process? Are they even going to be doing this type of work? Waste management, or who knows?
They just
The
said that.
demolition side didn't sell.
Oh, was that right?
It's just the trash side,
Okay.
that's, from what I understand.
My contact with Ray's is on vacation last week. I haven't talked to him this week.
And you're comfortable with the qualifications of either contractor? I hate to see them wait another month, being shut down.
Being a contractor, 30 days actually means 45.
That's the other problem, And then by the time they start, get the equipment here, it could be longer.
If you got a bird in the hand right now, I've worked with both these people.
Okay.
They're both,
You know the guy from,
yeah, I know both of them.
and he's reputable.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're both good companies.
What was Ray's?
152.
you're asking my opinion, I think we spend the extra money and get our downtown open. That's my opinion.
Do we want, so we're not.
If this guy
accepting
can start in tomorrow.
pending the insurance.
Right, we're not accepting the 175 bid. We're still leaving it up to Dave. And if he calls back and says it costs more money, we want Dave to either pull the trigger on it or stop it and call Ray's. It's his decision at this point in time.
I agree with that, yes.
Okay. Shane, is that what you feel?
Yeah, yep.
Greg?
Same.
Dave? The burden is on your shoulders.
All right. Here, I think,
Can I ask, what are you gonna do to inform the downtown owners?
well, we have a group email site that we've been reaching out with new information. We can go door to door. Matt's been very helpful with that. Yeah, we can send out an email and then we'll start knocking on doors as well.
Tomorrow? I mean, he's gonna bring the equipment tomorrow, assuming the insurance gets in the morning and reviewed.
Don't tell him until you see the wheels of the truck rolling.
Right. I think we have a business owner here.
I would like to we have somebody signed up for public comment, a business owner. Would it be appropriate time to ask her?
Well, I see Haley signed up here. Is she, Haley? There we go. Sorry. Do you want to? I'm assuming that you wanted to speak on the Mooresville homecoming street closure, didn't you? No. Okay. Okay. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, anywhere there's a microphone.
Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Hallie. I am the owner of 5 East as a tenant. Lori Kennett, who's here, is the owner of the building itself. So I wanted to come tonight I sent you all an email back on August 18th. And just wanted to make sure everyone understood my intentions behind that email. It's hard to really know people's body language and tone of voice via email. So that's why I'm here, really. Matt's been great talking to me the whole time, Dave as well. So I'm just here to kind of catch everybody up on that email. So people are saying, why now? I know that was a question you had, Matt, on Friday. Like, why are you asking us right now? This has been going on for 2 years. So for me personally, I've just been a tenant. So I didn't feel like I really had a stance to come here and ask questions about the demo. Since the first demo crew that you hired that had to be pulled off due to lack of insurance, a lot has changed with Lori and I. The building's not for sale publicly. However, I made an offer to purchase the building, my husband and I, and Lori has accepted that offer. So it's contingent on me understanding this process because it's a really big investment at a young age if the demo's not going to be done properly. So I wanted to understand that before I moved forward. So the email I sent to you guys on the 18th was just simply asking, there was a structural engineer report from April of 2020 when the damage happened, and the beginning of the report talked more about if the route of repairing the building was chosen, here's what needs to be done. But there's a paragraph that talked about demo, and I want to read that section out loud for everyone here. You guys all received this via email. This is Tom Leahy from Structural Point. He said, an alternate option would be demolition of the building structure. If demolition of the structure is considered, the scope of work should include protection of the adjacent structure during demolition, as well as associated structural facade repairs that will be required to ensure the adjacent building to the east remains stable and protected. So the question to the town council was, what do you plan to do in the scope of work of the demo to make sure that that is being done? And I got a reply from Shane and Jeff saying that Dave and the attorney would reach out. At that point, I had understood that the demo was going to be done. This was on a Wednesday. The new contractor was going to start not that following Monday, but the next one, so like 10 or so days. So it was kind of like, oh my goodness, I just made an offer on this building and now I've got to figure this out really fast. So I went ahead and called Dave Friday, 2 days later. We had a really great conversation and I just said, hey, here's where I'm coming from. And I said basically what I just said to you guys in this moment. And he said, well, from my understanding, that's on the building owner, meaning Lori or I. And I just said, I just don't quite understand how that makes sense, because when the tornado happened in April of 2020, Lori worked with her insurance. Luckily, they were great to work with. She got the money. She hired a local contractor, which was Sunco Construction. They came in and got the project done. And in that moment, Lori and I were kind of staring at the building and at Main Street, and our hearts were broken because it was COVID. My business had been closed for quite some time. We had no income really coming in, but we were like, man, we need to give these brides and all these events something to look forward to when they can finally come back and have their wedding. So Lori went and purchased a lot of paint. I got my family and friends to come. She had a couple staff members, and we fixed the facade of our building outside of the tornado damage repair. So we've been done for a long time. So to now say we've chosen to demo this building as the town who has taken a lien on the property, good luck when it comes down. That doesn't seem like that makes sense to me, but that's what we're getting told. So fast forward, this went on for days, several days. I was told by the town attorney I could no longer contact anyone on the town council or administration regarding the situation. She wanted everything directed to her, which is fair. It needed a point person. So I reiterated that same exact email to her on, let's see, that was on August 24th. By the time all this has happened, I still to this day haven't received a response. So that's a little disheartening because I just am simply asking a question. I want it down. We all want it down. I want my business neighbors to be flourishing again. We want the streets open. So we're all on the same page in this room. So that's the first thing I wanted to bring up, was just my intentions behind that email. And also, if I could get an answer, that would be awesome too. The second thing is a member of the council last Friday approached another business that I own in the town, a mobile coffee trailer, and said some things that just simply aren't quite true about what's happening here with the demo and my involvement. So I want to address those, but first I need to back up a little bit and tell you that the Gentry Demolition contacted me because they had found out from someone that I had a structural engineer coming, because I had asked the town attorney. Dave Moore and I on our phone call said it could be good if we all just kind of huddled up. And I said, what if I called that structural engineer back? I'll pay for it, and we have him back. A member of the demo crew, he mentioned the town attorney would need to be present, so I said I would see if my attorneys would need to be present as well. And he said, you know what, it's Friday evening, why don't you send me an email? Monday I'll check in with you, we'll get something set up, and we'll have a huddle up and just get on the same page. And I was like, that's awesome, thank you so much. So I called the structural engineer immediately. This was 4:30 p.m. on Friday, 2 days after I sent the email to you. And he said, normally I would not have time in my schedule. I schedule weeks out, but I'm going to make time because I remember that building. And so he said, let me get with you on Monday and give you a date. So he got back to me Monday, said Thursday at 1:30 p.m. worked for him. It would be about $1,500, and I had to pay a $600 retainer. So I was waiting to hear from Dave that Monday, and he had said that he was going to sign a contract with the demo crew that day, and that we would all get together and kind of figure out who's responsible for what. So again, we were talking back and forth. Everything was going great. I went ahead and paid the $600 retainer to the engineer who wrote that report. I don't know him from Adam. I just had access to that report that the original building owner had done. So it was all settled. I emailed several times to the town attorney with no response, asking if anyone could meet me Thursday at 1:30. No one did. So I met the structural engineer alone with Lori. Because I was told I couldn't contact any of you or town administration, we couldn't get into the building to do a proper report. So he did the report from the roof of 5 East and walking around 1 and 3 East Main. So I just wanted to have that to share with you guys, because I don't want in 100 years from now, we're in the same situation. Another building's crumbling because it wasn't put back together properly, which is essentially what the structural engineer said will happen. 1 East was built first, 5 East was built second, with 1 East in mind, the way that those buildings are structured. 1 East acts as the runoff for water for 5 East. Also, it's 3 bricks thick, 5 East is 2 bricks thick. When you remove that building, you're exposing brick that's not meant to be exposed to the outdoor elements. And over time, after it's been exposed, it will deteriorate. So it needs some sort of repair to that facade is what he was referencing there. And also at the most recent meeting, he said some sort of a drainage system, or else water is going to pour into 5 East because there's no longer that runoff. So that's what I found out. It was really informative. I wish Dave could have been there, but we were kind of banned from each other. So I finished that. I haven't talked to anyone as instructed since August 24th. I haven't sent any more emails, haven't followed up, haven't heard back. And then I got the call from Gentry Demolition, and they said, hey, we heard you have a structural engineer. Our insurance is requiring a structural engineer report to insure the project. Can we join your appointment? And I said, I asked them if they would want to join my appointment. And they said, absolutely, let's see if we can make it work. Well, it didn't work out timing-wise, so I moved forward with the appointment. 3 days later, I had a voicemail and an email from Gentry Demolition saying, we can't find a structural engineer. Is it too late to work with you, with your structural engineer? And I said, well, we've already done the report. Let me call him. I gave him a call, and they also called him. I gave them his contact information. The end result was it's technically conflict of interest because we're neighbors, even though we're all in it for the same goal. So he told Gentry I could pay him the full $1,500. He couldn't accept payment from anyone else. And he would give me the report, and then it would be up to me if I want to share that for the town with Gentry. Gentry's insurance approved that they would use my report to give them the insurance certificate needed for the demo. And so they're just waiting on me and on the structural engineer, which I should have the report in hand tomorrow, which I don't know if that relates to that's why they'll have insurance tomorrow, but that's when I'm supposed to have it in my hand and when I'm giving it to them, and I've paid that in full. So now that brings me back to the statements that were made to my family that then they shared with me. The first one was that I have spooked the demo crew away and that I'm stalling the process because I've been communicating with them. Matt also mentioned that he called me Friday and said, why are you talking to them? You're scaring them. Like, stop talking to them. And I was like, that's just extremely confusing to me because I just gifted them a structural engineer report so they can have insurance for this project. So that was hurtful, if I'm being honest, because I want this town to thrive. That's why I chose this town for my business. And I'm helping them make it go more quickly. So I didn't spook them. I actually called Joy Gentry yesterday and said, hey, Joy, did I spook you? Like, I just want to fully understand what's going on. And she said, absolutely not. Share it. Every email correspondence we've had, any town council member is welcome to call her to confirm that. And I'm welcome to share my emails with you guys. The only thing her and I can figure is that she did say, well, why are you getting this report in the first place? And I explained everything, I explained to you in the email. And she said that did cause me to have follow-up questions with the town naturally. So maybe they took those follow-up questions as I was spooked, but I'm not. We're ready to start the demo tomorrow or Wednesday. She said that to me on the phone as well. The second thing that was said about me to my family was that I'm requesting that the town paints my building. Again, we painted our building. I'm not asking that you guys paint my building. I'm not asking for you to pay for it. We've already done that. It's paid for. Our friends and family chipped in to kind of give everyone something to look forward to during COVID. So also disheartening that that was said. I'm not asking you to paint the building. I'm asking you to do the right thing and look at the structural engineer report and make sure the facade is protected so we're not here again down the road. The third thing that was said was that I threatened a lawsuit. I have never threatened a lawsuit, I don't even think, in my life. So I definitely did not threaten a lawsuit in this situation. So I just wanted to make sure you guys knew my heart and my intentions. I love this town. I want the demo to move forward. I'm not trying to stall it, or else I would not share my report tomorrow, which I am absolutely sharing it. So that's why I'm here today. So does anyone have questions? Are you mad at me?
I'm just mad.
This has been quite the journey
So
for
are
us
you
all.
wanting the town to paint the facade or not?
No,
That's what
it's
I'm
not
confused.
painting. It's not a paint.
Or repair it? What is it?
Yeah, absolutely. You can read it in the structural engineer report that I sent to you guys, and I'm sure it will be in there again tomorrow. He said, the structural engineer said, there's 100 ways you could protect this facade. He said, it's also not going to be architecturally pleasing because it's stacked brick that was never meant to be exposed, and that is not my worry. He said, so you could plaster it. That lasts about 15 years before it starts peeling and chipping, but is the ideal if the goal is to sell that lot and somebody builds another building. He said you could add a layer, that third layer of brick that is ready and prepared to be exposed to outdoor elements, but then are you crossing property lines? So that's not a question for me. That would be definitely a question for the structural engineer. So what I'm asking is that you take the report into consideration and include it in the scope of work, whether that's with this demo crew or with another professional, But that, I don't see how that makes sense that that's a cost Lori or I as building owner should incur at this time.
If I could just say a few things regarding the statement about the building owner and stuff, saying it's your cost or Lori's cost. I don't think that that's what was intended at that point. I think it's that spot is not owned by the town. Right? The town is coming in because it is an unsafe situation. We received an order for the court for the under the unsafe building code. And so we have the right to go in there and take it down because the owner of the property was not. The owner of the property is currently still the one that is responsible for those other sorts of things and the protection. So my guess is that's what was meant when they said it's the building owner's responsibility.
Even though the structural engineer is recommending that it be included in the scope of work of the demo, they're not saying an after.
So generally, what would happen is that scope of work for the demo would be done by the building owner themselves, the one responsible for the building who had insurance on that policy, that location. That's not what's happening here because it just wasn't being completed, and so the town is stepping in. And so in the ideal world, let's say if I owned that building, I would be the one on the hook for doing that, taking that down under my insurance policy that I received for this. It's built into that. If I'm not doing that as a property owner and the town has to come in, it is a situation where now you're taking the town dollars to do something that the town is technically not obligated to do outside of the fact that it is an unsafe location. And so that's the differentiation, I think, there between when you have the inspection done and they say this is the best way to proceed. It's probably the best way to proceed when you're talking about the landowner having that.
What if it is determined that our building is unsafe because once the demo has happened, my building's unsafe, so I tell all these brides, I'm sorry, but our building's unsafe, so we can't be in it until it's fixed? Or what happens in that situation if it is determined because of the demo that brick is deteriorating and it's determined unsafe?
Well, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. I guess it depends upon the reason and rationale as to why it is unsafe. If it is caused by the contractor that's coming in there, that's the reason why we're pushing for this insurance. If the contractor does something that creates a situation in which it makes your building unsafe, that's why we want to make sure we have the insurance in place, because that's what we're going to go after. If it is simply, this is the structure of this building and it is unsafe because of the exposures, that's a whole different ballgame. I don't think that the town's insurance, I don't think that the contractor's insurance, anybody's would cover it outside of possibly the current landowner. But that is all, I mean, it depends upon what insurance policies are in place. What I can tell you, it's my position that it would not be the liability of the town per se on that situation.
So does anyone have a recommendation for what we do? Because we don't have the funding personally to fix that. So it's going to begin to deteriorate over time according to what the structural engineer said. And Lori and I, neither one are in a position to put in the proper drainage system, which we would have to put that in on the property next to us because it would be underground to drain the water out. What do we do?
I don't necessarily have an answer to that. I mean, I don't know how. One, I'm not an engineer, so I don't know how to solve the situation for drainage. I don't know what it would cost to have that kind of tile system put in, or if it is even a tile system. But you know, I would say it's not that the town is intentionally trying to cause problems there. But I think what it is the town has been left in an unfortunate situation where they are coming in to pick up the pieces from a property owner who had not done it properly.
And then we're left to pick up the pieces after that. So if that's what the end result is, that's okay. I just wanted to be very black and white here and make sure that the things that are being spread that are untrue are made clear, that those things just simply aren't true. And that you guys know I gave my best effort to make everyone aware of what is probably going to happen at some point to the building. if it's not properly repaired. So thank you. Any other questions for us? This is Lori, the building owner.
I get why you're saying that the town doesn't own the property, so the town is not responsible for that, but from what I understand, if the building owner from the town doesn't pay this bill, then the town will take possession of that, and then the town will own the property, is that correct?
Well, the town is able to place a lien upon that property. If that property is ever sold, the town kind of gets its money back from the contracting. If the property owner gets delinquent on property tax bills and it goes to sheriff's sale or something of that nature, the town will have its option to take. Well, it is a situation in which it becomes difficult to take property away from somebody.
So the owner of the property is responsible if the owner of the property won't pay it.
That's why we waited 2 years to do something, because it's a bad situation for taxpayers, period. We didn't cause the tornado. We didn't cause the fact that 2 private owners didn't have the coverage. I had to repair my building. No one helped me with my repairs. It's the way it is.
Yep, we repaired ours as well. So
Yeah.
thank you for your time. I'll send you all the reports so you can move forward with your demo tomorrow.
Next item, Inliner Solution Agreement. Apparently, in sending these back and forth, one got signed, one didn't.
Well, we had the signatures from the town council, and had sent that to the department head to send off to have the inline solutions to sign off on. But what they did is they just signed another sheet that didn't include the town council's signature. So now we're back to just some housekeeping to re-sign this agreement.
So this has already been voted on. We've already signed it once. We just lost our paper. Next item is Casey's Guardrail.
Do you have any update on that, Jewel?
Yeah, so yesterday marked the 60th day from the letter that we had sent.
Okay.
So there are a couple options. We've gotten no responses from Casey's or Casey's Legal. So the guardrail is within our right-of-way. We have been able to locate no documentation which indicates that Casey's was required to or had to put that in as a variance to their sign or anything like that. We just don't see that in documented letter form. So the options are, 1, you leave it there, looks horrible. 2, we can take it out since it is in our right of way and it's an eyesore, and we just leave it that way. I don't know that I am without a traffic study that says that it is warranted there. I'd be very leery about placing something in there because of liability purposes.
It could be taken out and left out, right?
I don't think a traffic study was ever, we can't find anything that says that it should be there. Either
We
a
just
traffic
put it
study
there to
or a
help
variance
protect
or
our
anything.
sign, right?
What's that?
I guess from way back when, we just put it there to help.
Well, what we've heard is that
we
Casey
allowed them
was
to.
given the right to put it in to protect their sign and
We
their
allowed them
investment.
to put it in there.
But I don't see that documentation.
Should we notify them we're taking it out, and if they want
It's
to
in the
put up?
letter, that if they don't.
Oh,
do
okay, you've
something
already done that. So if somebody hits their sign, they're not gonna come back, they can't come back to the town?
I can't say they can't come back to this town or that they won't. People, regardless of liability, some people will sue. I don't know what Casey's business structure is as to whether or not they would do that, but they've been given ample warning regarding that guardrail. So it's just going to be direction to Dave as to whether or not his crew goes and takes it.
I'd make the motion to allow Dave to remove the guardrail, clean up an eyesore, at least get one of them cleaned up in town.
Motion has been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm opposed. I think that I'm worried what you said. I think we're going to get into, a truck is now going to hit that illuminated sign. It's not our fault, but I'm afraid it's going to get worse. Dave, you have permission? I don't know if I want to tell you to take the torches to the gas station and cut it off, but.
I think it's nuts and bolts.
Oh, okay. Are you going to pull the pylon? Are you going to pull the pylons out? Okay. Carlisle Street.
The bridge on Carlisle Street, yeah. Do you have an update on that?
Well, we have, I've let the county know that it is our position that since they have a Cume Bridge Fund, that they are under the statute responsible for all structures. That there's no limitation in the statute as to the width or length of a structure, and it specifically includes a language to say, including a culvert. And so I think that is this exact situation. It was the county's decision to put the Cume Bridge Fund in, and it's their responsibility to pay for it. So that's where we are right now. The question is, are you guys wanting to consider some funding for that to go back to the county, or are we just going to wait and say, you guys need to fix this, tell us when that you're putting it on the plan?
I think we need the teeth to be able to send them a letter and say that is the official stance. In an open meeting, we all agree, or however, a majority of us agree, and you need to do something with your bridge. The problem that was discussed, Dave, and help me out here, when we first brought this to the council, we discussed it with Don and Josh and someone else, a lady, and I can't remember her name. And their exact comment on the bridge portion of it was that bridge Cume Cap Fund is going to go away at the end of the year. They're doing away with it. So we have to do something now. They're doing away with it.
Whether or not it's going away at the end of the year, they're the ones that implemented it, and so they're the ones that have collected the dollars for it.
How long have we paid into the bridge fund and how much per?
Yeah,
I don't know how long ago it's been.
I don't know when it was established, but the way it works is they get a percentage of the levy that just gets captured and placed into that, and with it, they're responsible for bridges countywide.
Want to have a more strongly worded letter sent to the county. I have a motion to that, and may I be the signature on that letter?
Motion to send a letter to the county with you as a signature.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Justin Shane, 5-0. New business. Mooresville Homecoming Street closure. We have someone here from the school. I bet we do.
Hello, my name is Tamara Mills. I'm the student council sponsor for Mooresville High School, and this is my student body vice president, Holly Connor, and I am making her talk. Tell them what we need.
So we would like to request access for September 23rd at 5 p.m. to have the parade.
You guys, in the paperwork that I filed with the city, you do have the parade route. I worked with our fire chief here to come up with the parade route. We will leave the high school, go south on Indiana up to Main Street, turn left on Main Street, go to Maple, turn left on Maple, go back north on Maple to St. Clair, turn left on St. Clair, back over to Indiana, then back to the high school.
Questions?
Who do you play for homecoming?
Franklin.
Franklin. Good luck.
Thank you. We would
Shouldn't be
love
much of a
for
game.
everybody to
Rose's
come
pretty
to
good
the
this year.
parade as well.
Do we need to put some provisions in the granting the permission on winning and losing and?
I don't, you guys are ranked what, second?
We are 3-0 right now.
Right. Yeah. Pretty good team.
Motion to accept the street closure request.
I'll make a motion to accept the street closure request for the homecoming parade on 9/23/22.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
And great, 5-0. Have a parade.
Thank you very much.
Sorry you had to sit there all that time for that.
It's okay. Thank you.
Department head reports. Please, go ahead.
Well, we had a pretty tragic accident this morning, where a student was struck on Indiana Street, just south of County Line, going to the bus stop. So I've spoken to several media outlets on that today. I did find out, I got a couple other complaints about problems with cars running stop arms on the buses. So I found out that there was actually a grant to put extra patrols out, which I didn't know about, obviously, and it's through the county. So I'm going to get with the county representative and see how much money's left in that grant, or if we can maybe do a combination with the county and some of our off-duty guys to come in and maybe watch some of the problem areas with the bus crossings. I mean, this was, about 200 meters inside of Mooresville. And he was intoxicated, so we're trying to address that. I didn't know it was a problem until today, so.
Do the officers, would they ride in the buses and observe, or?
No, generally, they would, we got complaints off for 144 and a couple other places, so they would monitor that area, see if they could catch them. And then I would try to coordinate with Mooresville School Police, because I know some of the other school districts, the bus drivers, the buses all have cameras. And so if we actually observed a violation on the camera and could get a picture of who was driving, then we could, have an investigator follow up on that. I think it's still a misdemeanor to run through a school bus arm, so. The only other thing that we've been working on the fence project with RDC. We're hoping to get that done sometimes, but we keep hitting little stumbling blocks. So we're making it through that. But other than that, I've enjoyed my first couple weeks, and look forward to more.
Dylan, has he?
For the most part.
Okay.
Right eye push till every morning.
You'll get my bill.
Anything else?
No, sir, thank you.
Other department heads, not everyone at once.
So I've been contacted by several of the businesses on on Indiana Street about the upcoming street fair that we have, or the parking lot fair that they have. Now, after hearing tonight with the possibility of having demolition, I was going to basically see if the council would have any objections. I know with Chief Buckner and Superintendent Moore, we've kind of all agreed that since the Indiana Street is closed, allow the businesses to have their fair in the street from basically about Pete Majestic, which is State Farm, down. We would obviously make sure that the building was safe and coordinate that off to where citizens wouldn't be up around that building. Now, again, that's going to kind of predict with what Dave happens with the next couple of days, but Do you have any objections with that, of allowing the businesses to allow to use the street on that, basically, with not having to get the permits, basically, is what I'm asking.
Street is already closed.
Right, they wanted to know if they needed to sign the street closures and stuff, and I said, I don't think you would have to, since we've already kind of shut it, but I would approach you guys as council and find out for sure.
What kind of barriers would we use to keep them away from that building or the fall zone?
Fences, barricades, what we've got. We've already got one fence up there. We just kind of stretch it out a little bit more. And basically, I know they usually have police presence up there. We'd have a police officer in that area also to kind of keep them out of the area, because I know they've kind of requested that in the past. Just kind of try to take the precautionaries we can. But again, depending on when we can get the demolition crew in, that's going to dictate everything also.
When is the street fair?
17th.
It's a week from Saturday.
Week from Saturday.
Legal counsel is still wanting us to motion and allow, or not allow this, just for public record and just for the simple fact that we are giving them the permission to use that. Are there any thoughts, any negative feelings, positive feelings? What are we going to do?
I think you just said the date. When is it? This 17th. Is there a chance it could be down at least the second story by then?
I feel pretty good about it.
When do you think they would open the road? After the second story's down or after the entire thing's down?
I hate to assume his plan there.
Like, what if the building's down and the road's open? Do we go ahead and close it back for this, or what do they want? Did you ask them about that?
At that point in time, we didn't know anything about the bids that were coming in.
Right.
So.
I guess we could make a motion to close it and then just close it for the street fair.
Yeah, I think that's what we're up against.
We don't have a permit, though. Can you three sign off on a permit? So we have it on record. I've made other people do that.
If that's what the council wishes,
They're all three
I have
here.
no issues with it. I know legal said no.
Legal said no.
You know, you said no about having the permit, though.
Now say that again.
You recommend no on having the street fair? I'm sorry, I didn't quite.
No, I was saying that you needed to take action one way or the other to allow the usage. I'm not saying don't allow it.
Okay,
I'm saying
sorry. I've misinterpreted what you said.
council needs to take action to make that determination.
Is it possible to print one off and have the department heads sign it since they're all here? Is that possible? Oh yeah, they're down in okay. My only question is, what if the road's open back up? Do we close it again?
Well, I think if we're going to tell them, they plan these things months in advance. If we're going to tell them, yes, you can use it, it'd be real hard to say, oh, wait a minute, we opened the roads back up, you're not going to use it. So I think we either need to say, yes, they're going to be able to use it, or no, they're not.
And if they choose not to, it's fine.
And they're wanting it closed?
The demo contractor does need the road closed. In reality,
No, the business owners for the fair.
Well, they have if you remember, we set back with Farmhouse, and we basically, I think Tom had basically came up with using this parking lots.
Right.
So now,
Which I thought they liked that. Who's in charge now?
Gina.
Regina.
I can't think of her last name now.
Shelby.
Yes.
Shelby. Yeah. So with that being said, I know Kim had basically kind of dropped out and Gina picked it back up. And they asked me, and I said, I don't see an issue with it, but we've already got the road shut down. I said, it just depends on when we're gonna get this building down or not. And that's the million-dollar question.
If I could, I know this is your item, but I assume you are aware that the street fair was canceled, and then Regina came out and was trying to get them rejuvenated again because of the closure downtown. I think you're aware we have some issues with the park, and her communication has been fantastic. She's actually coming to the park board meeting on Monday. So I would just say that that has been a positive as far as them trying to communicate. It's been a big improvement of trying to get that information to the town and let everyone know. So I would just like to add that part to it.
Do you want a motion?
A motion to approve a yet-to-be-signed street closure permit.
Okay.
One thing before you do
go
that,
ahead.
Ally, I hate to put you on the spot, but is there an event on the 17th?
Yeah, Jenna's been in complete communication with you. We have a wedding that night, so she's got it all worked out with me.
Okay.
And the wedding doesn't start until 4 p.m. and she has vendors packing and leaving at 3 p.m.
That's gonna work for you?
Yes, that'll work for me. Yeah, she's been great. Marshall Lemieux has given us permission to direct all wedding guests to parking and his citizens make the parking lot that day, so we have signs to put up over there too. Obviously, we can't punish people for parking there if they're not a part of the wedding, but we can push our wedding guests to go there.
Okay. Okay. That's
Do
all
you
I
want to make the motion? Or?
No, go ahead.
So I would make a motion to allow the street closure for the September 17th street fair on Indiana Street from Harrison to Main, pending the signature of the appropriate department heads.
Motion made, do I have a second?
Second.
Made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Shane, Jeff, 5-0.
Council, and I can get, after we, us three department heads sign it, and then I can basically take it to the business owner and have her fill it all out and then get it back to council.
Thanks.
The other thing I have on my list, like I said in my budget hearing, at the end of this month, ourselves, Mooresville Fire Department, along with Madison Township and Brown Township, we coordinated and basically got a class signed up for our staff to take this class. It's an auto education. We're going to be in town, but due to a big majority of a lot of our staff that are going to be working on duties and off duty, you're going to see a lot of cooperation and working together, and basically you might see a Madison Township on one of our runs or a Brown Township and vice versa. Just kind of giving you guys heads up. That's kind of be happening. That's the September 26th for that week. 40-hour class, so our guys will be tired. Then also, as most of you know, a few months back, I emailed out and basically stated that National Firefighters Academy had honored Chief Metzger with his death as being in line of duty. A few of my staff members and myself will be going out in October to represent the town to watch his name and get his name put on the wall in the National Firefighters Memorial for all of the United States. So just kind of giving you heads up on that. I'll be gone for the weekend. Other than that, I have nothing further.
Chris?
I just have two brief things, more of an FYI coming up. I know I've been speaking with the attorney about annexation of park parcels that are outside of the buffer zone, and in that as well, there is one that is the town's property that's not the park, that's under the civil town of Mooresville. So I know they'll be reaching out to you if they have not already about annexation of those outside of the buffer zone. And the other item is, as I mentioned earlier, the capital improvement plan, although when you planned for something 10 years ago, the price is a little bit different, but next council meeting, I will be coming about our capital improvement plan to replace the restrooms at Old Town Park.
Anything else?
Got nothing.
Legal.
Yeah, I don't have anything to discuss except for that, when we were talking earlier, one thing that I forgot to say that I did want to say is I apologize for no communication coming from my office. I will address that and get that taken care of. That's not how I generally operate my staff. So, and I know that I didn't have things that you wanted to hear tonight. But my job is to inform and advise the council on their obligations. So that's the only thing I have to say.
Public comments. Motion for approval of payment of claims.
Make a motion, we approve claims in the amount of $1,251,956.72.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Preston and Greg, 5-0. Town council comments. Jeffrey?
I have none.
Jane?
A couple things. Jewel, I do want to mention, and I thank you for apologizing there, but I do want to mention that I had provided Hallie's information as well as Lori's information to the attorney myself, asking her to reach out to them. So I had sent that myself, so I think maybe a follow-up would be good there. So I appreciate you acknowledging that. Second, we've had several meetings of the Mooresville 200th Anniversary Committee. We've had a lot of great meetings and a lot of great volunteers. One of the things that's come up, and I remember several years ago, I was in the audience, and I remember Councilman Mathis at the time brought up the Medal of Honor winner, Sammy Davis, about trying to name a street or something, do something for him in the town. And we had mentioned, this is in the, planning stages for 2024, but the anniversary committee thought that might be a good idea. We had thought maybe something around the school system since he attended Mooresville High School. Again, we have not spoken to the school about this, but we kind of envisioned something like, I don't know if you've seen in Martinsville where they did John Wooden Way, but I don't think they changed Bluff Road. They just made it John Wooden Way. Yeah, so we were thinking maybe a section of Carlisle there by the street, or by the school, from Monroe to Indiana, possibly talking to the school about, if we don't want to do that, possibly talking to the school about naming the drive that goes into the main entrance of the high school. That might be an option. But they wanted to try to potentially coordinate something like that with an event surrounding, perhaps, that he comes and speaks and then has some kind of dedication to his honor. And it would be during the 200th anniversary year. So we kind of wanted to start talking about that now so that they have a chance to invite him, and maybe it would be an additional incentive for him to come. So I don't know what the process would be for that or what the council feels like about that, but I thought I'd bring it up now while it was just recently discussed.
So you guys are going to reach out to him first?
Yeah, we don't have that lined up yet, but we thought, maybe if we had something, and it doesn't absolutely have to be Carlisle. I was just trying to think of a street that has two sections that are the same name, because I wouldn't want to offend the Carlisle family, and since there's two sections of Carlisle, or maybe if you did it on Indiana, in front of the school, or,
You could do Memorial Drive by the little thing Dave White put in.
Link to the school.
yeah, and the reason we thought of the school is because we went to the high school here. So maybe someone has a better idea, but that's kind of the thought process. I remember Councilman Mathis bringing it up and seemed to have some positive thoughts, but I don't think anything ever really happened. So I thought he might appreciate it as well since he brought it up. And I wanted to remember that he did. I remember him bringing that up years ago.
not sure that we have enough, I think in the contract, after a certain number of years, we may be able to have naming rights on 267. I don't know how far out Monroe goes at this point in time. We could name the county's portion of it. But I don't know that we got enough money to pave it, but we should be have enough money to put signs up for it. But that is.
That's another idea, yeah.
I know that at the time, Jeff, didn't you guys kind of debate on maybe when we did Samuel Moore Parkway, didn't you guys kind of debate on that being Sam Davis?
Yeah.
It would be another gateway or entryway in, especially if we're getting ready to do a bunch of work to it.
Sure.
That's another thought. We're gonna do some improvements in that area anyway, and it might be a good time, kind of dedicate it or something like that, you know, make it a nice celebration.
Anything else? Hello?
Oh, I'm sorry, no, thank you. Sorry.
Greg? Justin?
No, I'm good.
Our next meeting day will be Tuesday, September 20th. Let's do it at 6:30. Okay. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Been made. Do I have a second? Second. Made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Justin Shane, 5-0.
I'm waiting. He's got to get.
Hey, damn it. I didn't approve that.
Hey, Dave.
There's one already signed.